Oh.
And we are live. So hello, everyone, to Monday Afternoon Live with Alan and Greg and our special guest, Mark. And in the background, Elvis, who may or may not say something.
There's a good chance you'll hear him.
Okay.
Good morning for me, and Buenos Tardes to Greg, and Buenos Noches to Mark.
Hold on, where's my mouse so I can highlight?
Still wearing my pajamas.
Oh,
we
I
have.
like this.
I don't wear my hat. I wear my mallet to bed. Basically what I wear.
Our viewer's name, because that's going to set off my Echo device.
Yes.
Alexis, hello.
Oh no, it's okay. Mine hasn't gone.
I'm blind as a bat, so I can't read the comments.
Steadfast.
Hey,
well, hello, Sean. Welcome to our view that you can actually come see every now and then, because we're having it at a reasonable time for you.
A civilized hour.
Yeah, well, it's 8 p.m. in England, right?
6 p.m. in England.
6
7
p.m.
p.m.
Yeah, 6 p.m. Yep. Yeah, I just 10 a.m. here. I'm just catching up with my Voxer. I call my ham radio. You know, Sean sent me a text. I got another text from Brighton, England. Waiting on some info from Ireland, but I like Voxer.
You know, I like Voxer too. Discord has its advantages, but for me, it's just easier to talk on Voxer.
I can't figure out Discord. I don't know, like, how to send somebody like a private message. I can't even figure that out on Discord.
You got NP Hunt watching from home for a change. Usually I'm watching during the 15th hour shift at work. So we had a busy week since last time on YouTube. A lot of interesting events have come up that I know, Mark, you did the first one on Roald Dahl.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think you were the first one to mention, or at least the first one that I saw mention it.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much reacted to it as soon as I saw it, and I think it comes across in the video, maybe the emotional reflex response that I gave. I mean, to me, I feel rather protective over him because, you know, he was a big part of my childhood, and, you know, I definitely have a nostalgic attachment to it. And I was, I was being lazy. It was a cold, mid-morning, I think. And I thought, well, I'll just climb into bed and read a bit. But, you know, like I'm sure many of you guys do as well, you get a bit distracted scrolling through your phone. So I was like checking the news, and I read that. I was like, what? And I just said, I got up, you know, moved Elvis away. I'm like, get up, sat down, made the video, and I felt better after doing that. So.
I made one after seeing yours that I eventually did not release, just because I saw
the short, which I really enjoyed.
I did a short the day after, but I didn't release the full one just because I don't think I was adding anything to it. And then there was a couple people who I'm surprised weren't that offended by it. Well, okay, they change it, so what?
Yeah, I mean, especially as, you know, obviously we won't mention names, but I mean, especially as at least one or two of them are themselves published authors. So it's kind of interesting how they would feel if people took that attitude with their work in the future, maybe.
Well, it's just part of it. I mean, Sean did the video this morning replying to your classics, which is another one I get to, but where does it all stop? You know,
replying or
not replying, but all this changing. Now, the one that was mentioned, and it came, who's the guy? Bo of the Fifth Column. He's a huge channel, like 800,000 subscribers.
How do I never see any of these channels?
He's just political. No, he's not a booktuber. He's a political commentator. Especially, he does a lot of European pop, but a lot of it American. But he mentioned Huckleberry Finn, and he says there are some modern Huckleberry Finns out there that use the name Slave Jim instead.
How does Alan always do this? How does he always have the right book for everything you say. Every time I watch it, he always manages to pull up
Because
one.
we rehearse.
I was going to say,
Mark.
you must rehearse. I hate to think what you've got up in the corner there to kind of, act as me.
But here's my comment. I almost made a video about this one. So you have these people turning Huckleberry Finn into Slave Jim. I can understand why they want to do it. But in Texas, there is a movement to remove the word slavery from textbooks and replace it with involuntary relocation.
Oh my God.
So I was thinking, like, okay, you're in Texas and you're reading about Slave Jim. Well, that's an offensive word in Texas. So you got to replace Slave Jim to involuntarily relocated Jim. But that's not going to work. So I said, reload Jim.
Reload Jim.
Reload. I can see Huck saying reload Jim.
You know what they did that like Hamilton and like the musical? I think I'm going to do a musical on Huckleberry Finn.
Nope. NP Hunt, the Roald Dahl situation definitely sparked some very emotional responses. I think Brian at Bookish made some good points about being commercially driven rather than rampant wokeness. But, okay, I know they've...
I'm still thinking about Reload Jim. Reload Jim.
I know he says it's all business, and the guy Bo says it's all business. But have these people ever been at a business meeting at a company? Because you have to have a pie chart saying, here is Roald Dahl sales going down. You're losing money. And then you have to have the person saying, if we do this, here's our pie chart with our sales going up if we do the changes. And what they know is ROI, return on investment. Will you get a return on investment just by changing this over? And that's where I had my doubts, because you got to convince some muckety-muck CEO that you're going to make money by doing this. And I didn't see the dollar signs for me. So that's why I think behind that business situation, there probably was some wokeness pressure.
Yes.
Well, I mean, there was the pressure of the pressure group combined probably with the business decision. I mean, yeah, Brian made some good points, and I think his video was well done. But of course, he did it a few days afterwards, and I don't again know what his own attachment is to this author. And I think, yeah, probably I do regret that I jumped straight in there because I did upset a couple of people. I mean, the response was overwhelmingly positive, but I did get a few dislikes, which I kind of expected. But I think it's always difficult to come out and defend anything that is seen to be what's the word? The people are eager to say that because you don't agree with this, you must be racist, or you must be sexist, or you must be this. No, it's just that I like things the way they are, and I don't want those particular things changed.
Yeah, the whole idea is that by changing it, you're protecting people from harm. And you always want to protect people from harm. And when you don't, say, well, you're harming someone. And that is the theory, but I'm not sure I 100%.
Greg, did you use the word wokenism?
Wokeness.
Wokeness? Yeah. I don't know about all this wokeness.
I can't keep up with this terminology.
So, Alexis, the slippery slope of censorship and book burning, Huckleberry Finn has been taken out of some schools in America. Well, the only thing I could possibly say is it's really not a children's book.
No,
it's not. It's for adults starting university, maybe senior year of high school.
Maybe
it was certainly marketed as a children's book when I was a child. I remember my first copy. It was white. It looked like a copy of Charlotte's Web or something. Huckleberry Finn, going on an adventure. And I read it as a child, then I read it like in junior high, then I think I read it in high school or undergrad, then I read it as an adult. I just buddy read it with my dad a few years ago because he'd never read it. It's one of my favorite books. Without Huckleberry Finn, there would be no Finnegan's Wake.
But it's very difficult, I think, with a figure like Mark Twain, more so even than Roald Dahl, because Mark Twain is on his own an institution. I mean, he is like one of the foundations of American literature. So to mess with that is really shameful. And I think also you are skewing the perceptions of these authors by, washing over the negative aspects of their work. I mean, it's far better that you keep that in, and because Penguin's backtrack now, right?
Talk about a whitewashing.
Well, yeah, because of course the fence in Tom Sawyer, I think, or is that Huckleberry Finn?
No, Tom Sawyer had the whitewashing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think it's because Penguin's backtrack now, right? So they're going to actually have both versions.
They're going to have both, and my guess is that the revised one is going to be silently put out of print after this edition runs through.
Yeah,
that's because I mean, I guess some people will want it, but it'd be normally is if you're a library and you're buying a replacement, then you would, if they had not backtracked, you would have been buying the revised version to put in the libraries. And now a librarian's going to have to decide which version they want. Maybe they will buy both, but my guess is that I think it will silently be put to bed.
But the funny thing is, I mean, this could lead to, depending how this pans out in the future, and if it goes across a wide range of authors, you'll end up with a generation of children who grow up having read different books, but the same book. So, they'll get together and have a chat, and it would be like, well, I don't remember any of that when I read it. That's shocking, and it's like, yeah, but that's what was in the version I read. Well, that wasn't in my version,
Well, that could be like reading
really bizarre.
Different translations of a book. Like,
I think I agree. I mean, someone said today, because you pointed out the classics thing. Someone said to me today that I contradicted myself by saying that translatable texts were more accessible with regards to the Roald Dahl argument, because I said a modern translation is going to be more accessible because they would have changed or updated the language. Personally, I don't think that's the same thing, because I think all translated works are not the words of the original author anyway. And to me, there's a difference between making something more accessible and making something more acceptable. And that's what they're doing in the case of Roald Dahl. It's not necessarily making it more accessible, but what they perceive to be more acceptable. And that is changing it completely. Now, a lot of translations maybe will change things. I think Sean probably has just put out a video on it. He was talking about something to do with that. And we know from having read like Les Miserables recently, that the first British translation of it, the translator just decided to change things on his own completely. He thought, well, this passage is a bit anti-English, so
hello, Sonia.
So I'm going to change it. And it was shocking when I found out that England didn't have a complete translation of Les Miserables until 2008, which is shocking. A complete, unalterated
2008.
2008. Communist China managed to put one out. It took them a long time to do it because their original translators were, caught up in the Chinese Civil War, then the Second World War, then the Civil War again, and all this.
Hello, Elizabeth.
They managed to put it out in 1984, but we still didn't get ours out in England until 2008. So shocking.
Hello, everybody. You and Sean, you especially really adored this book, didn't you?
I loved it.
Yeah.
Really loved it.
So did Big Al with Big Al books. She really liked it too. Like a few years ago, it was her favorite book.
Yeah, it's up there.
I haven't read it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was
Then reading
working
it,
and
I had
watching it at the same time. I never did that. No,
I had
just
no
a comment
I
that she's
had
working and watching at the same time. And I used when I was working as a programmer, I used to have YouTube off on the side when I was working.
Well,
But
Greg, we were just talking about Les Miserables. No.
you were talking about translations and what makes a good translation. And one of the ones I want to talk about is comes from Dostoevsky's Brothers Karamazov. There is part 2, chapter 3. Of course, Alan. So, Alan, wait a second. I'm not done with you. You bring the book back. Look at part 2, chapter 3, and tell me what the title of the chapter is. Because depending on your translation, you'll see a couple of different issues.
What you mean book? Okay, part 2, chapter 3,
Right.
or book 3, part 2, part 2.
Look it up in your index in the beginning. Okay. Well, in the original one, it's just a character's name. It's like Lisa Vita Shmirdakova or something like that. When you look at different translations, one translation just translates it the character name exactly the same way it was in Russian. But you look at some other translators where they go stinking Lizaveta. Another one is reeking Lizaveta. And you look at the original Russian, and I don't know Russian, but someone told me that the Shmirdakova kind of indicates it's someone who speaks Russian smelly.
sounds like it in Czech as well, actually. Smrdi, yeah.
So what happens is when Constant Garnett translated it, she just dropped the last name and dropped the stinking.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so that really sort of reminded me, we're talking about this wokeness. It's like she was probably thinking, I don't want to call a woman smelly, so I'm just going to leave it off.
Constant Garnett translated several Russian. I think she did War and Peace too.
She translated almost all the early Russian classics. And from what I've been told is she was a little Victorian in her attitudes, which meant that when you came to stinking Lizaveta, that kind of upset her a little bit. So she just put it down as Lizaveta. And that, I think, is a bad way to translate.
Well, there's a moment in Les Miserables where he talks about what happens at the Battle of Waterloo, and there's this famous event that's apocryphal or not about one of the French soldiers when they're invited to surrender. He just screams out "merde," and you know it's interesting because in the Isabel Hapgood translation, which is one of the early ones, she just says excrement. So it's like, you know, instead of saying shit or something like that, he just shouts out excrement. And, you know, Sean and I end up talking about what does it really mean? And I suppose in the context they mean it in, it's an FU, right?
No, I mean, we can square a little bit, but
I'm not going to say the F word.
I don't mind, but if you're in a subject and I said, mark that shit, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about
the shade.
Yeah, but it's just funny that she changes that to be again more acceptable. I mean, in a Victorian translation, she's not going to write the word shit,
right?
But in a modern translation, they do.
Hello, Jim. Paula at Draw Your Book did a fascinating video about translation. Oh, yeah, Constant Garnett was rather prudish, and she made Tolstoy sound like Dostoevsky, two very different Russians. Yeah, I've also heard that her Russian really wasn't all that good.
It's interesting you say that, Jim, because I think I watched a video from Mayberry Book Club yesterday, and he was talking about how is it Richard Pivar and Volonkonsky?
Yeah, the modern ones for Dostoevsky.
And he said that his problem with it is, you know, that they're obviously good at what they do, but the problem is when you read books they translated, you end up reading them. So Dostoevsky sounds like Tolstoy, and Tolstoy sounds like Dostoevsky because the way they've translated it, it's now, they've kind of. The problem is I haven't read them yet, so I can't make my own judgment on this. I'm sure you have read them, Greg. I don't know.
I've read different translations of both. The thing is, a good translator can get the verbal tics down. Another one from Dostoevsky is in Crime and Punishment. Early on, they're talking about his student little attic room, and they describe a table. And in the Peter and Gorneski, the table is described as round and oval. And people come back and say, well, that's a mistranslation. And they come with, no, it's not a mistranslation. That's how it was in Dostoevsky. He just wrote so fast, he just made that mistake. And they kept that mistake in the translation. Most translators are going to say, well, let's just pick one. Which is the best translation?
I've got a translation of War and Peace by Anthony Briggs. It's supposed to be a really good translation.
Yep.
But the bad thing about it is like it's a nice edition with the French flaps and big introduction and notes and all that. But Audible doesn't have this translation. I think they have Garnett's translation.
They have Garnett's and another one. The one thing I've heard of, I read part of the Anthony Briggs translation, is that some of the criticisms is that Briggs glosses over some of the Russianness and makes it a lot more British.
Oh.
And that is to help a modern reader get over that hump of that it really is very difficult sometimes.
But you know how I like to read, and you like to read this way too, Greg, like with the Audible or audio along with this, and it's really messed up when it doesn't jibe with the text, You
can't do it with the translation, but no.
Mine's Anthony Briggs as well. So.
Oh, great.
I had that same one, Mark. That's the one I was. That's the one I was reading last year for Mark for the man. And I eventually switched over about 600 pages in.
Oh.
And mine was purely practical. Is that I was going on a vacation to Punta Cana, and San Domingo. Where did I go? One of those islands that's next to Haiti.
Oh, Dominican Republic.
Dominican Republic. That's right. And I didn't want to carry that book on the plane with me.
I don't blame you. But I have a friend. She's a commenter extraordinaire. You guys might know her, Claire Shepard.
Oh yeah. She's
in England, and she wants to help me through this. So, it's my bucket list book.
Well, I have to say, Sean and I want to read it. We were thinking of doing it next year, so perhaps,
okay,
we can.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Give it a go.
Cool.
Because I've never read it. I mean, I feel ashamed. So yeah, I read that one, Jim, and it was good. I enjoyed it. I thought Master and Margarita was good.
Now to come out, that's
my mother died today.
I think it was yesterday.
Yeah. Maman is a hard word to translate into English. If you translate it mommy, it sounds too childish. But isn't that really kind of what he's doing? I remember that when we did the Stranger in a University class, it says it's an odd for an adult man to be calling his mother Maman. And that's really sort of a child's form of endearment.
So what would he call her as a formal?
I don't know.
My mare, maybe.
Elizabeth is on here, and she's fluent in French. She would know exactly.
So Jim, I think actually.
Jim,
what does Elizabeth say?
Jim's fluent in French too.
I don't know.
But you see, it's interesting you say it, because I always laugh, because in Czech, when they change, they have different cases when they, depending on how they're talking, the situation they're talking in, and it's very funny when they answer the phone to their mums, because they're like "Ahoy, mummy," and sometimes I have a friend. Maybe he's watching, but he's like 50 years old, and he's like "Ahoy, mummy," "Hi, mum." But because it's mummy in Czech, you have to change the ending. You can't change it. But of course, for an English-speaking person, it sounds really funny looking at a 50-year-old man going, "Hi, mummy." So.
It's funny.
Yeah. Jim speaks French.
Yeah.
I wish I knew another language.
Hello, Bad is Rad. Welcome to the afternoon chat.
Hey, Dad.
Hey, hi there.
Elizabeth, I call my mother Maman, but just when I talk to her, if I talk about her, I will say my mother, ma mère. There we go. So,
yeah, that's right.
Sean, January 24, War and Peace. In December, Anna Karenina.
Ooh, I've read Anna Karenina. I want to reread it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're going to try and follow a similar pattern like we've done this year with the French. We started the year with Victor Hugo's Les Mis, and we're going to finish in December with Notre Dame de Paris, or the Hunchback of Notre Dame. So, yeah, it's a nice cover. That one is that. That's Pivar and Volokot. Yeah. I've got the cloth bound one there.
So, Mark, are you doing Hunchback of Notre Dame this year?
December? Yeah, we thought we'd start the year with Victor Hugo and end the year with Victor Hugo.
Okay,
and then all sorts of so.
I just couldn't squeeze in Les Miserables this year with everything. It's just
honestly, I will reread it whenever you want. Well, as long as it's not the year.
It's one of those books that I absolutely want to read. I have the Christine Donaher translation.
Yeah, lovely.
Oh.
Lovely. But it's funny you said, because you reminded me of something I was going to say when we were talking about translation, is how we're very quick to say whether something is a good or a bad translation. But of course, we don't know, do we?
No.
I think what we mean is how readable it is, or how unreadable it is, or how comfortable we feel reading it. But we always say this was a very good translation. Well, you don't know. It might be complete rubbish, because we don't know the original version.
Again, it's how readable it is. I mean, a lot of people complain about the Pivar and Volokonsky Dostoevsky because his prose style is clunky. But the problem is the original Dostoevsky style is clunky. And they're only trying to show you what it was like to read Dostoevsky.
Well, that's a good translation.
But it's harder to read than a smoothed out translation. So and hello, Brandy.
Hey, Brandy.
So which one's better? Which is one of the
most authentic. The most authentic is best.
Well, this is like
my humble opinion.
The British translation is that it comes off feeling very British when you should be coming off feeling Russian.
Yes.
But if it makes people able to read it quicker and understand it easier, especially because there's so much French in the original War and Peace. It is almost a bilingual novel. And you have to either translate the French or put it all in footnotes.
Well, and are you saying like that, in your opinion, the Briggs translation is easier to read? Or
it's easy. Supposedly it's easier to read going into the book than some of the other translations.
Because Anna Karenina, like the hardest part was the characters' names. They've got like 3 different names, and then they're like also princes or princesses, and then they have nicknames, and that's the hardest part for me reading like Tolstoy.
But you see, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing if if you read an easier translation to get you interested in it. I mean, we are the type of people that go back and read another translation or look for something more authentic, I think. So, you know, again, I can't comment on Christine Donaher really, other than it was a really good read. How authentic it was, how good it was, I don't really know. I did read a book, like a supplementary book afterwards, which was absolutely fascinating, called Novel of the Century, a biography of Les Miserables. And the man in that did say that her translation was really, really good. So, you know, I feel confident in recommending it to people. But again, I'm not, you know, I can't 100% say, oh yeah, this is, you know, really close to the original or whatever. But
well, I don't know. It's not like I want to read the Briggs translation and Garnett's translation and what are those sisters? Louise Maud? Don't they have a translation of War and Peace?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, Alan, well, here's the thing. Like I said, I started War and Peace with the Briggs translation, and then when I had to take it to the Dominican Republic, I switched over to the Maud translation, which you can get if you are an Amazon Prime member. It's free, and you get the Audible book for free. And you put it on my iPad, and you can read along the text. It highlights.
You know, that might be the translation to read, you guys. The Maud translation for next year, maybe.
You know, the thing is, you can switch, and you can all read different translations, and you can all discuss the book, and you'll know what you'll pretty much know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when we did Ulysses, everybody had a different translation of Ulysses, and it ended up making me very frustrated. But you know, Ulysses it hasn't been translated, but it's been talking about censored and meld over and different editions and different texts, you know, changes and we could get into that all day. I wonder if Una and the Codex Catena fellows would want to get in on this War and Peace next year too. I know they've already read it, did videos on it, but we're gonna blow up this War and Peace thing next year.
Yeah, Sony like the Briggs translation, and MJ. Hello, MJ.
MJ. Say her name 3 times. Yeah. Hey, MJ.
No, MJ. I bought this because of you. Well, not just you, but.
Oh yeah! Oh wow!
She did a video on Saturday, and I just finally bit the bullet and said, "I got to buy that."
It's good.
So far, this is an excellent reading device.
Mm-hmm.
You get the bigger screen, with more text. I've just been playing around with the handwriting features. The thing about it is my handwriting is naturally really bad and illegible. So this does not help improve that situation. But as I practice reading my book, I've been making more notes. So maybe over time, my handwriting will slightly improve because I'm looking at it more and saying, that stinks. It's got to get better than that.
My handwriting is impeccable.
But no. For actual reading, this is just a purely wonderful device. You get a lot of text on here. So I'm going to do a full review of it later, but
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I mean one of the beauties, of course, now is that with so many of these older translations in the public domain, you can pull them up side by side, read segments from each of them, and just choose the one you like the best. So that's quite useful, I think.
Mm-hmm. It is. I mean, and again, you do have to worry about some of the older translations, like you say, taking out the bad words from the French, because the French were a lot more accepting of that kind of stuff than.
Well, definitely, still are.
Probably so. Yep, Jim read the Maud translation of Anna Karenina. Hi guys, I love that, Greg. All right, I'm just going through some of our comments because I get backed up in these chats on the comments, and I lose my way because I'm so busy talking. And Jim's going, the Bible is full of ambiguity because of the translation. The Greek has many different words for the English love. Philos, eros, agrippe, and they all mean different kinds of love. Love thy neighbor. Yeah.
Meta love. Right on.
Okay, everyone, be sure to like this live for the fellas. Yeah, that would be nice.
I have to say, in your YouTube careers, have you ever been one of those who says smash that like button? I haven't managed to do that yet, but
I have not done. I think I did it on one of my early videos, but I'm just saying you all know what to do if you like it. So I don't repeat it. I know most people do.
I never said like. Well, I think I have a few times. Like, subscribe.
I might have done it in the beginning.
Doesn't help.
And then you feel that somehow it's not acceptable, I suppose. I know I always felt guilty doing it. So thank you, Brandy.
I like everything. I'm really free with my likes. I like something before I even watch it. I just automatically like.
Well, I've done that where I like something and then I thought, oh, I better read it actually. And then afterwards it's like, oh, no, I don't.
I know Steve Donnie, he says your friends come on, you just like it and you're watching it. But then sometimes you have to actually listen to everything being said. I know I watch a video about the political commentator talking about Roald Dahl, and then he come out at the end and say, it's okay. I don't care if they do it. And I go, I usually like everything he says, but that was one case where I really disagreed with him.
It's interesting where Elizabeth says there we have the expression "forgive my French" because I don't know if it's a North American thing, but in England we say "pardon my French," which of course sounds even more French, right? You say "pardon my French."
Yes.
So.
Yeah, we say pardon my French.
Yeah, I think it's interchangeable. Forgive my French, pardon my French. But the thing is, are you really swearing in French if no one's taking it as a swear word? I mean, to be a swear word, it has to be something that people sort of object to you saying, I guess. Especially
I know how to swear in Spanish. Pendejos. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying what words count as true swear words? You remember George Carlin did the 7 dirty words?
Yeah.
I can't remember all of them.
Television.
But you can say some of those words on television now.
Yeah, like bitch. Say bitch. You still can't say shite.
Well, it depends on the television.
It depends on the television.
But I think there were always different rules, weren't there, for cable television and network television in the US?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I used to know because in England we call it the watershed, and it was the 9 p.m. watershed. And after 9 p.m. you could say these types of words. So I can't remember why it was called the watershed. So
yeah, after 9 p.m. But in England, you have to pay for your TV. That's why they don't have commercials.
Well, not all. I mean, the BBC, the BBC is funded by a license fee that we have to pay. So if you buy a television in England, you have to pay a license fee. They take your address and everything if you don't. And it's quite a hefty fine. I think it's over £1,000 fine if you don't do it. If you're over 75, it's free. But I mean,
that reminds me of something. Did they have TV detector vans looking for illegal? Because I remember Monty Python did a joke about a cat detector van.
On the TV, that's why it's warm,
or whatever. No, they say they looking for illegal cats, or I can't remember that, but that's what I said.
They used to publish like the list of people's excuses as to why they haven't got a license, and the TV detector people went in, and it's like, but the TV's warm, and it's like, oh, the cat sleeps there.
Yeah. I remember watching TV in Ireland when I was there in the 90s. It was totally different than American TV. They would kind of cut up David Letterman. It wasn't the same. but there was
Yeah,
no commercials.
I have to say, it's one thing I always disliked about American TV was and I think I might be wrong, but I think cable was better at this, was that the commercials there'd be so many of them. It gets cut up so much in America. And sometimes the weird thing I found strange is like you would disappear to a commercial and then you'd come back and all it was is just the end credits of the thing you were watching and then a commercial. So like, for example, Seinfeld's a good example. So, you used to have like that bit at the end where you just say like a little joke. So you go to a commercial break, you get that, and like 2 seconds later, the credits roll, another commercial, the next program starts. It's a little bit too extreme for me on that, the American TV.
I'm so used to it.
Yeah, as a kid, we had only one TV channel. In Bermuda, we had just initially, and it would only broadcast, I think, between maybe something like 10 a.m. and 10 p.m., maybe something like that. And I remember when we got cable, it was the most amazing thing because suddenly, we're getting all these American shows, all these American cable channels, and it was great, to go from one TV broadcasting, 12 hours a day to suddenly having this choice and being able to see all sorts of things. It was great.
Now, Mark, I wanted to, at the beginning, I wanted to ask you about like where you were born and like your childhood and that, if you have any brothers and sisters.
Yeah, I was born in England, but I was 2 when I left, and we moved to Bermuda because of my father's job. He worked in telecoms. He worked in submarine fiber optic cable network. So, of course, the cables that go under the Atlantic Ocean and whatnot from Europe to North America were his purview, and Bermuda is like one of the places where it kind of stops off. So that's why we were there. I have a younger sister. She lives in the UK. She used to live in Berlin, and she lived here actually for a while, for about a year with me as well, trying out teaching and stuff. And then now she's back living in the UK.
She's an art teacher?
No. She's in tourism actually. She works for a hotel company at the moment. She does marketing and that kind of things for them. So yeah.
So how many years did you spend in Bermuda total?
Yeah, we did. I usually say 10 years, but it's 9 years something. Yeah. So we left there and then we moved to Sweden. So it was quite a contrast, going from somewhere that never snowed, and then I was 11, 12 years old the first time I saw snow and all this kind of stuff. And it was like, well, what is it? So, and actually, Greg, you'll appreciate this because about a year or so before we found out we were leaving Bermuda, we'd finally caved in and got a cat. Because we never wanted like what I don't want to say serious pet, but like a cat or a dog, because we never knew exactly how long we were going to be there. Because we originally were supposed to be there about 18 months, and we had guinea pigs and this kind of stuff. But eventually we got this cat, and then about, as I say, a year later, my father's told, time to move. We're moving to Sweden. And of course, for us, the cat was part of the family, so we took it with us. And you can imagine this poor Bermudian cat, the first time there's snow as well. And like I remember she put her paw outside the door, touched it, withdrew it in horror, like looked at it, and then just fled back in the house and like under the bed. But she was a stray cat, and she came with us everywhere because we went back. After Sweden, we went back to England, and then eventually they went back to Bermuda, and the cat went as well. And then they went back to England, and this cat was got in, I think, 1989, maybe 1989, 1990, and she passed away in 2011.
So that's
24 years, 25 years old.
That's a good.
Wow.
I mean, we have a 20-year-old cat.
No, right,
Her health is, not great, but she's still going. But that reminds me when you said your cat didn't like snow. We used to have an indoor-outdoor cat, and we were living in Woodbridge, Virginia. We had and she just would run out the door when anyone came in. But at one point, we had a huge snow, and she ran out the door, and she hit the snow, and she just hissed at it. And then she walked in the snow we had they had the snow plow drive through the street, but it was still a lot of snow. And she was just walking down that street, howling at the top, just like she was not amused.
Oh, geez. We had they had like on the news pictures of this cat out here loving the snow, just like because we just got hit with a snowstorm in Portland, Oregon. Cats out there eating the snow, not used to it. Like, what's this? Smelling it.
Well, Elvis adores it. He puts his head down. You know how dogs are with their nose, and he just plows his own little trail with it. And it's always funny when he looks up because he's covered with the snow. And I always think he looks like Tony Montana in Scarface. When he's on the table,
yeah.
He looks up and he's got all that powder on his face. He loves it. Absolutely adores it.
You have to take a picture of him, Mark, and
I have
a video.
It's on Instagram and wherever else. I don't know if you use it, but I'll send you it on Voxer, but I have a couple of them.
Oh, okay. Cool. Thanks. No, I don't do Instagram or Twitter. I don't have time. It's basketball season. We're getting into March Madness, so that's like college basketball. Go Ohio State. But
yeah, his is Brandy. Brandy was saying, like, I don't have any TV. I don't even own a TV for 8 years. The only reason I have one now is because someone gave me as a gift. I don't watch a whole lot of TV either. I went through a period of like 10 years or so where I watched nothing. And then eventually, my wife and I bought one. And we have a TV in our house now. I believe we have turned on the TV 2 or 3 times since we've lived here over a year.
Yeah, I keep trying to get Greg to watch General Hospital with me, but
no. If it becomes my afternoon nap or General Hospital, I'll take the afternoon nap.
Hey, now that Brandy's on here, do you spell your name with an I or a Y, Brandy?
It's a Y, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah. So I've been spelling it with an I.
Yep.
Because I had a friend named Brandy.
I used to watch TV, DVDs, and Blu-rays.
Yeah.
Bad, cute stories. Bad, my cat says hello. Well, hello to Bad's cat. We've seen Oreo and the puppies, but we have not.
Yeah, Oreo.
Oreo, that's a great name.
I meant to say hello through the house. Hello. Okay. Watson is a huge fan of the snow. I think I saw a short of him walking around the snow.
I bet Watson would be.
Oh, Bad. My puppies are now in a good homes. I have no more puppies. Oh.
Oh, really? Wow.
The puppy videos were just adorable. But
yeah, I saw you send that to me, Mark. Yeah. Thanks.
Thought I would.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
How many puppies did she have? Oreo, I mean, not Bad.
No, I just remember looking at them, and they're so adorable. But I have 4 cats, and that's enough pets. It's like enough to take care of.
Yeah.
Brandy watches BookTube on my TV now. Yeah. What happened was when we were going through the speaker nominations, my wife caved, and we got BookTube TV, so she could watch that show that was just so funny, going through all those votes for the speaker, and we were just laughing because we found it humorous.
Mm. That was quite a thing, wasn't it?
How was the rest of the world, like Czech, doing that, watching that? Were they laughing at Americans?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how what do you call it? How widely watched it was as a saga, but I mean, a lot of my friends are quite political or interested in politics and things like that, and certainly a few of them found it all quite amusing. But then, of course, it's just another day in British politics at the moment, so it's like nobody looks that bad compared to how things are going with us. So, well, I mean, no democracy does. So,
I want to answer MJ's comment. I encourage you to tune it in because it's really getting good, MJ. It's off the chain, and Sonny Corinthos and all the mobsters, and there's a serial killer and a prison break. You just missed all that, but you can catch up.
I mean, it's been going a long time, hasn't it? I mean, I remember it being on when I was a kid.
Yeah, it's been going on for over 50 years.
50
and
years.
My grandmother turned me on to watching it, and like over 40 years ago. And then when I work and have a job, I miss it, and I come back to it. So I've missed it for years at a time and came back. But yeah, drama. It's my favorite genre.
Well, we had a similar thing because when we were living in Bermuda, my mum got into As the World Turns. And, we left, of course. And then 5 years later, they went back and pretty much the same things were going on. And she could, very easily pick it all up again. So,
yeah, everybody remembers Luke and Laura from General Hospital back in, I think, the 80s. Luke and Laura, the marriage. Well, Laura is now the mayor of Port Charles. So she's still on. And
well, it's a good career if you get on the show. If you're an actor, you got a role for life if you want it, I guess.
Yeah, it's a
Oh, Bad's talking. Your Pamela short was hilarious, MJ.
Yeah, I need to watch that again. That was funny, MJ.
I don't think I've seen that one yet. Was it just?
Yeah, I'm a big Motley Crue fan. Big Pamela fan too. I wasn't a big Baywatch fan. I don't know why, because I love California Oceans, but
I enjoyed Baywatch, but then I suppose I was the right age for it, really. So
oh, Bad had 7. That's a lot of puppies.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I can see not wanting to keep 7 puppies. That'd be a house full of dog.
Which isn't a bad thing. Greg.
No, it's not too. I mean, I've had more than 4 cats before, and
you say that like it's a bad thing. House full of dog.
No, it's just a lot of work because you have to walk all those dogs.
I'm kind of smelling it. I'm getting a sensory of it. Yeah, house full of dog. Yes.
And you feed all the dogs and give them all pills.
The peanut butter box.
That's the one thing is a dog will eat a pill with peanut butter pretty easily.
The peanut butter box is here. Like Mark probably doesn't know what I'm talking about when I say the peanut butter box is here.
I don't know what that is.
I'm not sure I know what that is.
It's an American commercial for that pet company that sends like drugs, and they have those 2 dogs, and one dog's going, the peanut butter box is here. The other dog's going, that's not the peanut butter box. That's our medication. Mommy puts our pill. No, the peanut butter box is here. But if you don't watch TV, Greg, you wouldn't know.
So Bad has heard it. It's just poems that we've added. That's different. Do you recommend the book? And then MJ Allen, LOL, maybe tomorrow. It will snow and I should be at home. Do you remember the 80s GH song?
General Hospital theme, maybe.
I remember the Laura song by what was the dude Sailing? Oh, what's his name? Christopher Cross.
Christopher Cross.
Laura. But when you think of Laura, that sad song.
Okay.
One thing we haven't talked about yet is the artificial intelligence.
Oh, that's right. We wanted to talk about AI.
Mm-hmm.
How it's taken over.
It is. I mean, I'm not really here. This isn't me.
I started using AI art for my thumbnail generation.
I noticed, yeah.
Just because I'm so bored with just the snapshots.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we have Canva, and you can do a lot of stuff with Canva. And
do you have Canva, Greg?
I have the free version
because they have now. I I only noticed it the other day. They have now an AI function for art. You just type in what you want and it creates it for you.
Really?
Really?
I presume that's the paid version.
Probably. I have the paid one, but I was very lucky because I use it at school. So, of course, I get to use it at home too. I hope.
Yeah.
Unless my boss is watching and he says I'm not. But yeah, whoops. It's our secret.
I might try. I mean, I'm using OpenAI or something for mine, and it's free. You get initially 48 artworks, then 15 per month, and you could pay like $15 for 115. So it's
well, I think
cheap.
Canva, to be honest, is well worth the subscription cost. I think it's around $120 for the year. So, and you get a lot of stuff for that. I mean, it's indispensable to me in my job and just life. So I'm very pleased with it. I mean, I would pay for it anyway if even if I didn't get it through work. So
okay. I mean, I might try it out because I'm trying to just play around to see what you can do with thumbnails. So maybe I'll maybe try it for a month, not a whole year. But if you think you can generate some pretty good AI pictures, I'm not too picky.
yeah, I mean, I haven't really played around with it. It wasn't too amazing what I asked it to do, but then I was probably maybe not so good in the prompt I gave it. But
Hi, Sean.
see it. Well, I think
He may be gone by now because I'm kind of behind.
He's probably fast asleep now, anyway.
Oh, yes, Sean.
But I find it, I don't know, I find it fascinating. I know a lot of people are negative about it and probably with good reason, but I think it's good to approach it in that kind of balanced way and just understand how impactful it is going to be on all our lives in the future. That's why I think it's a good idea to kind of get a bit of a handle on it now and try to understand how to use it. And, that I'm assuming you've played around with Chat GPT.
I have not played around with Chat GPT yet. But I saw the video about recommending books, and I'm kind of curious if I put it in, what it would recommend me, or get out of the book and get into some other. What other kind of functionality does the chat have?
I think
it will write your term papers.
Potentially, yes, it can do that, of course. But as a member of the educational establishment, I couldn't possibly comment on that.
I heard it's going to have like a watermark that will tell you that, this has been generated by AI.
Well, people apparently have already been making other AIs that will detect if something has been generated by an AI. So, someone said it's going to end up being
a congressman wrote a speech with this AI, whatever it's called, a congressman.
But here's the thing is that if you're a good teacher, you can probably know what your students are capable of. Because I have a story when I was a junior in university. I was taking a summer class just because I wanted to get my classes over earlier. And we had English composition for juniors. It's a required class for everyone in the university, just to make sure that you could write sufficiently well in English as a college graduate. So there were 2 football players in the class with us. And it's a little bit different than most classes because it was condensed to 6 weeks and you just had a class every day. So every week, the professor on a Monday said, this is the subject of your term paper, turn it in by Friday. So, and then on the next Monday, he'd come back and comment on everyone's papers. So one week is about 3 weeks in, maybe 4 weeks in, he went to one of the football players and he says, Mr. So-and-so, this is a pretty good paper. Can you explain what it is about? And he gave the topic of the paper. Can you go in a little more depth? And struggling, he goes, etiquette. You use the word etiquette in a sense. How did you use the word etiquette in your paper? And the guy couldn't answer. And it was very clear that he had bought his paper and hadn't even bothered to read it.
Wow.
Then he turned to this.
I would never embarrass a student like that I mean, I used to teach English 101 and composition 102 at community college. So I got those football players too. And people, it was a required elective. So they had to take it. They did not want to be there. You know?
But Alan, I was about to say, it's like the second football player, the professor took it out and he went through the same questions. But this football player answered the questions. And my guess is one of them read the paper that he bought and the other one didn't. And the one who didn't show up for class the next day.
Wow.
But the second one made it through. And I mean, I don't know if the second one actually bought it or not, but it's clear that the first one had bought the first.
I mean, that's a funny story, and I get it, but that makes me hate that teacher. That's for a teacher to embarrass even a football player. And he probably had to take the class over again, and the damn football player is probably still hating that teacher to this very day.
Could be. But
who knows? Maybe that football player went on and became a very famous published author.
Could be. Maybe it shook him to the bones, but no, the professor was tenured, and he had won the National Book Award for his. So they weren't moving that professor.
I have to say, for me, it wouldn't be too difficult to tell because obviously I'm teaching in the Czech Republic, and if my students suddenly started turning in work of perfect English, then I would be suspicious. Not all of them, but some of them I would be. And also, there's another thing that is kind of useful that allows me to spot when someone uses, for example, Google Translate, or somebody uses, if they will use this AI, because these things are all biased towards American English, and the children here, they learn British English. So the moment I see color spelt without a U, or mum with an O. Now, I'm a bit more forgiving with mum because of the cultural things with a lot of the television and stuff they watch, but some of these little changes they shouldn't know about because they don't learn about
tiger with an I, or tire with an I.
Exactly. They wouldn't know that. So when I start to see it in written works, I think, hang on, Google Translate has been near this paper. And then, of course, a lot of the time, Google Translate just doesn't make sense anyway. And like the football player Greg mentioned, they don't read it back or know any different. They think it does. So, yeah, it can be tricky.
What age group do you teach, Mark?
I teach from the age of 6. They're not writing any papers. From the age of 6 up to 15.
Oh, my God. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I teach the whole from the first class to the 9th class of the compulsory education system. English, though, is only compulsory from the 3rd class. So that's, what is that, 10-year-olds maybe? But we do it from the 1st class because we get them used to it. So in the 1st and 2nd classes, it's kind of repetition of each year. And in the 3rd class, it's now, it's like practice. And then the 3rd class, it's for real. Let's go. You get marks now properly for your English.
So do you teach like a class of 6-year-olds and then move on to a class of 10-year-olds, or?
Yeah. I mean, what we do is try to make the groups smaller. So most classes are divided into 2. I mean, it's a very small school. It's a village school in the mountains. There's about 170 students, and the classes are not that big, but some classes are bigger than others. So, for example, we might have one class that has 14 students in it, and another class that might have 25 students in it. But
how many faculty?
I think in total it's about 13.
Okay, so that's really interesting. Wow, pretty intimate school.
Very much so. I mean, it sounds kind of cliche to say it's like a family, but it does feel like that. I mean, we're very lucky. Our headmaster, he's very progressive, I guess, and it's nice because that's why I'm there. Not a lot of schools have a native English-speaking person on full-time, staff. and he's also a politician now. He's in our Senate, our national Senate, and he's on like educational committees and things like that. So that's all very very interesting and good for our school. And we tend to score very highly. We score very highly
You're digging in. You're digging in. You're building a house, and
in the same village, actually. Yeah. It's. I mean, I do like it. I'm not a huge fan of the winters, but it's not the worst I've been in. That's for sure. But it's very interesting how we deal with English there, because I teach English conversation, but then they also allow me to do something called CLIL, which is forget the actual name of it, content learning integrated language, something like that. So it allows me to teach art, biology, history, and geography.
I see.
Say 20 to 25 minutes of those lessons will be only in English, and then the rest is in Czech. So
I did a lot of that over here too. TEFL, teaching English as a foreign language, just to pick up extra money. Such an easy job, man. Like I'd have these Japanese students, and they'd all just want to go out to bars with me. So or we'd start the course, like I'd go to their
twist your arm, Alan.
What? Yeah.
I bet they really had to twist your arm to get you out there.
Well, no, this is how the course would start. I'd show up there at their apartment, and they'd have like coffee and cake for me. So I'd have some nice coffee and cake, and we'd talk and just chat, and then they'd want to go out to a bar. And the hardest thing is like American colloquialisms. Like I remember a Japanese student could not get the concept. It was easy as a piece of cake.
At least you didn't say easy peasy Japanesey.
I get it now. Yeah.
Well, there's
easy as a piece of cake. What?
Languages that just don't really make a whole lot of sense. They're just, who knows how they like easy peasy arose. But it's
easy peasy lemon squeezy piece of cake. There's also it's interesting, but of course, every language has something. I mean, there's tons of Czech stuff. I'm thinking, I have no idea what it means, and you ask someone to translate it, and they start, and then they're like, you know what, Mark, it's untranslatable. So, yeah. But it can be a funny word, a language, because it's one of those languages as well where sometimes the slightest change. So like we have some of these accents at the top, like a little hook or something like that. And it can really change it if you say it wrong. It's a bit tonal, like Chinese or something, because you have like pero, which means pen. But if you elongate it and say pero, it means part of the male anatomy. So it's something so small like that, which I don't think of. And, I often perhaps elongate things naturally as an English speaker anyway. And the number of times, I might say pero in class, and all the kids are like, because of course I'm saying pen, but
you're not saying.
Well, believe me, the other week I said something really bad, because I saw it and it didn't look familiar, and because they often substitute I's and Y's, and I just looked at it and I made the mistake of reading it aloud as an English person, because I'm just looking on the desk. And it was terrible, because it was like one of the rudest words in any language. It was like, oh no, what have you done? But
how old were your students? How old were your students?
They were the 15-year-olds. They just found it funny. The teacher too, because it wasn't deliberate, and anyone can make that mistake. You see, because
the thing is, like, adults should probably find that humorous more than insulting.
Yeah,
now,
of course. Yeah.
Now, the one thing is, if you go out to England and you want to go out for a cigarette, what do you normally
say?
I had this when I was in high school, and I was at a youth hostel, and I was walking out of my room, and another British guy says, "Hey, you going out for a fag?" Now, being a 15-year-old American kid, I thought he was saying something.
How dare you?
And so I told all the other guys, watch out for these people over there. And then they told all the girls on our trip will watch out for these fellas over there. And so they're like,
God.
why are these Americans just so put off by us?
Well, you would have, you would have called the police if he said he was going out to smoke a fag.
Oh man. Yeah.
But the thing is, once everyone learned the mistake, everyone thought it was absolutely hilarious. And they just say like, "Oh, let's go out with the fag," like because you know what you're talking about. It can be very funny.
It is, what I find funny is how I think Americans often think the English are quite prudish, but I actually think it's the opposite. We are far freer. Like if you watch our television, you will see certain 4-letter words that would never be uttered probably on some American channels, thrown around with abandon in England. I don't think that prudish at all.
Here's the thing is, did you ever see Benny Hill growing up?
Love Benny.
There were some scenes where the women were not completely clothed.
Some,
not a whole lot, not lingering too much, but you look at it like because you're watching it on one of these local channels, like, what did I just see?
Mm-hmm.
But like most people think, okay, that's no problem in Britain.
I wonder how he's received today. I mean, I don't know if he's still rerun in America, but you don't see him rerun, I think, that much in Britain. And you can imagine, with all the stuff we were talking about before, certainly the kind of objectification of women that would have gone on with Benny Hill, I can't imagine it would be that popular these days.
I think he was a product of his time and probably aged out, but it's okay.
You see, this is the good thing. You said aged out, and this is perhaps why if someone like Roald Dahl is unsuitable for modern audiences, rather than trying to repackage and rebrand him and make him something he's not, let him die a natural death. Let his work just fade into obscurity. If they deserve to go that way, then they deserve to go that way. If not, they'll be kept around as classics,
Yeah, I mean,
I was gonna say something at this point too. Like, as a writer, I would rather have my work banned or just sent off in the sunset rather than censored or messed with.
Mm-hmm.
Just ban me.
It's not your work. I mean, it's not a representation of you. If if 50 years after your death, I pick up something you wrote and said, no, I'm going to change this package. No, okay.
Yeah.
Here's Alan's work, but it's not.
R.O. Jim.
Well, here's also, I mentioned this in a comment in Sean's video, is that what we find offensive today is not going to be what is found offensive tomorrow. And one of the ones I'm bringing up is like meat eating. I think a couple of decades from now, meat eating is going to be extremely offensive to people.
I think you're correct.
And my comment was, if you're reading a novel where someone's eating a hamburger and it's 50 years, you go, oh, we can't let these kids read about this guy eating a hamburger because he's killing and eating animals. We'll just change it to veggie burger. No harm, no foul, right?
Right.
And by that point, though, they wouldn't even have to say veggie burger. It would probably just be burger if there's no other option, right?
I guess so.
But you see, imagine that. It's such an interesting point that you raised, because I'm trying to imagine now that you would have these books with those bizarre kind of footnotes in it, where they might actually have, the footnote next to it and said, back in unenlightened times, people actually ate animals, and it would be, and a hamburger is actually not what you've learned ham was. It is actually beef. And, it could be really interesting.
It could be quite interesting. I'm going to try to go through some of our comments here because Bad as Rad, stay tuned. Adam and I are doing a Texas Chainsaw Massacre for David Book Reviews. I bought my fake blood already. It's going to be epic, just like the movie. I might win an Emmy.
Oh, okay, man.
We need some sort of award on BookTube about certain type of videos. I know certain channels do their own awards, but we should have more of that kind of stuff because it's kind of fun. and I listened to Schumann while I drove, but now at Starbucks, anybody want anything?
Thanks, Alexis. I'll take a Frappuccino, a Java chip Frappuccino.
I guess classical music. I guess that's sort of a rarity for nowadays. If the Schumann is the same Schumann that I'm thinking of. Aaron Hook. Oh, hello, Aaron.
Oh, hey, Aaron.
I don't know if I've seen you around, but hello. At university, I know a bloke who wrote his own essays and the essays for his other 2 students for the full 3 years, including the dissertations. They all got 2-1 degrees, as I remember. Hold on. Well, here's an interesting tidbit about people writing degrees. The name is Who Wrote Illness as a Metaphor? She's a woman, the very famous female critic. She had the black hair with the white stripe. You know the woman I'm talking about.
Cruella de Vil.
Not Cruella de Vil. AIDS and its metaphor.
Not Bonnie Raitt.
But
I'm thinking about Edith Head too. She's a costume designer for Hitchcock. Not Edith Head.
No, very famous. It's gonna strike me because I read a biography a few years ago. But when she was a student at university, she married one of her professors who was going for a doctorate degree, and it came out that she actually wrote her husband's doctorate degree.
Huh.
Oh wow! How embarrassing!
Well, not for her, but except that they eventually got divorced, and he still get to keep his teaching post.
That's funny.
I did it once with German homework a long time ago, where we had these exchange students, and I just said, I haven't got time. Can you do it for me? No, that's right. She said, oh, don't worry, I'll do it for you. And I said, oh, that's great. And then my other friend said, oh, did she do it for you? I'm like, yeah. He said, oh, let me copy it. And I said, well, obviously it was correct. And then I went through and made like 3 deliberate mistakes. So I told him, which ones I deliberately got wrong. And he said, yeah, well, he knows that I'm weaker than you. So I'll make maybe 5 deliberate mistakes,
Genius. I used to do a lot of ghostwriting, like in grad school in Arizona. In fact, I got paid for it. Like I would sit in on lectures. There was a company, I think called like Ghostwriters or some shite. And I'd sit in like the history of jazz. And I'd sit in on that and take my little notes and type them up. And I'd get like, $1 a word. Well, hell no, it was more like maybe 5 cents a word. 5 cents a word. So I wouldn't make a whole lot. But then, like, say if I wrote 3 pages of notes, then that would be like $5. And then out of the $5 they'd sell, I'd get like $2 of that. So that was a good gig.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually quite hard to make deliberate mistakes,
Oh, yeah, what you're saying, yeah.
Oh, what should I?
I enjoyed it because I learned like the history of jazz, or I'd have to go to.
That sounds interesting, yeah.
Yeah, some big lecture hall. It wouldn't be a tiny class. It'd be a big lecture, like art history or Tibetan art history, some shit like that.
Oh, wow.
So that is saying Spanish can have a lot of different meanings. I think that's true with a lot of languages. I mean, I know just, a little tiny bit of Spanish.
Huevos. What does huevos mean?
Eggs, no?
Eggs?
Right, but it also means balls.
Balls, yeah.
Yeah.
Like cojones. Huevos.
Yeah. Andre said, it's my special taste. My father loved Benny Hill. There are still some Benny Hill moments that I remember now from when I was growing up, and he had just some of the most humorous moments.
I like when he dresses in drag.
He just had such a great expression, though. That was it as well. I mean, he could just do so much with just like a look of his face.
But that's me. I like a drag queen. Once in a while.
That censorship is crap. Nobody has a right to change everything. A person is dead. Oh, yes, I want to be called enormous. I'd rather be called enormous than fat. No one.
Really?
What about PHAT?
I'd much
what
rather
about PHAT?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I see the rest of it. Sorry, Alan.
What about PHAT?
Oh, yeah.
Now you go.
No, I misread Bad's comment there. I was thinking, really? No. So.
Enormous.
Shannon is back.
Hey, Shannon.
What is our future going to look like? Censorship. Now here's something is that when you talk about this is that someone did a article in the Washington Post about editing Shakespeare back in the Bolderizing, and they basically took out all the hard stuff from Shakespeare, and so it was an easy text to read. Very similar for what they did for Doll, but just making it easier. But it at one time was the most popular edition of Shakespeare available.
I was always interested because, like, for example, I think in this country, if they read Shakespeare, it is, I don't know if it's late 19th century or very early 20th century translations, because of course they're translating Shakespeare into Czech. So, for us, we look at Shakespeare and we see it in kind of early modern English. So it's largely understandable for us, but there's still a lot of strange turns of phrases and we have to think about it when we read Shakespeare. But if you're reading foreign translations of Shakespeare, you're reading something probably much closer to the way you're speaking now than the original people are reading it, right? So, because people always say to me, the translations of Shakespeare are excellent, it's really good. And I'm thinking, I wonder what it'd be like if they had, a 16th century or 17th century Czech translation of Shakespeare, something that mirrored, the time in terms of the language. But, they don't. They have something much more modern. So it's kind of interesting, I think.
I've tried to read parts of like early translations of Homer, like Pope, which again has the same language. He was translating into the common language of the time from Greek.
There you go. You see it,
and it's very, very different from the modern translations. I mean, you can still get that Achilles is really mad in the first line. I mean, that's obvious, but lots of different subtleties. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're catching. We're catching up to all the. Okay, we're all caught up with the comments.
With the Weibos and that. Okay, good.
With the Weibos, yeah.
With the Weibos.
Yeah, we can talk about Shakespeare if you want. I mean, his most violent play to me is Titus Andronicus.
Yeah, that was just over the top. And some scholars say it wasn't written by Shakespeare because stylistically it doesn't fit. The characterizations don't fit.
Do they offer an alternative?
This is a violent play too. I read that last year for Shake Tube or whatever they're calling it now. Shake Tube.
Shake Timber.
Shake Timber. Yeah, this is really violent too. And then but the first time I read Titus Andronicus, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, it really brings up a whole lot of interesting things about Shakespeare. I mean, because a lot of people say Shakespeare didn't write Shakespeare.
Yeah, Ben Jonson.
Well, the one critic I saw is that Shakespeare was the owner of the theater,
Right.
And he just bought plays from people.
Oh,
And
rubbish.
then you were a ghostwriter. You're paying me for it. And
we don't really know, though. That's the thing.
See, that's one theory. The other theory is that he was a theater owner. He also happened to be this magnificent genius. He just, damn it, I have to write my own damn plays, because there's certain anomalies. Like most of the writers of that time exchanged letters with each other. Okay. And we have nothing of that from Shakespeare. And so the idea is like, okay, he just actually didn't appreciate what he was actually writing down. He was just pumping out a product so he could put it on the stage.
What if he's just a joke? You know, what if the likes of Marlowe and Johnson and co. got together and thought, you know what? Let's confound two generations. We'll all chip in a play each and write the name Shakespeare on it and see if anybody knows.
No, there was a real theater owner, and they're saying they'd give it to. It's like, you just put these on.
Greg, there's no letters between Shakespeare and like Marlowe or Johnson.
There's nothing. There's no trace really of him apart from his plays, I suppose, and
the fact that he had owned a theater.
Well, his will with Anna Hathaway and his second best bed.
No. There was a Will Shakespeare who owned the Stratford on the Avon. That's pretty much established. It's just, how did he write and why is he, if he did write them, is it just so isolated that these fabulous works have no correlation outside of it? I mean, maybe I can see it as like he really was just a businessman who was the staggering genius in one way and totally ignorant of what he was putting down in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is as well, because a lot of the plays are set outside of England, and of course we don't have any evidence to prove that Shakespeare ever left England, which would be kind of difficult. But I mean, there's the whole Edward de Vere thing, isn't there? The I don't know if you've seen the film Anonymous.
I haven't. I've heard of it.
And it's interesting. It's an interesting theory, and I'm more inclined to, not believe it, but I can accept it as a hypothesis or something put forward because some actual well-known Shakespearean actors support it. Like Derek Jacobi was one of them.
You mean Sir Derek Jacobi?
Yeah, but we're old friends, so I get to call him Derek. Del.
He's a great actor.
And I don't know. It is very.
I saw him do Hamlet on BBC on tape when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. I used to get drunk in my parents' basement, and we had VHS tapes, and I get it from the library, and then I'd have the script in hand. It's the same thing I do today, only like 40 years. I'm still doing the same thing, listening to the audio and reading along. Yeah, but I saw him do Hamlet. And who's the actor who did Roger Rabbit? I saw him do Iago on video. For Othello, his Iago.
Yeah, I'm thinking Bob Hoskins, but
exactly. Yeah, so he's on tape doing Iago. Can you imagine him? He was great.
Yeah, he was a good actor. Yeah.
Is he dead?
Yeah, I think he is.
Oh my God.
I think Derek Jacobi is as well.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, Shannon says, okay, never
God, I'm fucking old.
I took Shakespeare for my degree, but it was so long ago, and I had to read them one after the other. So at this point, it's like they're all one big play.
Oh. Well, you can get back into it. It's just like General Hospital, I like Shakespeare's tragedies, but I like his comedies too, of course. Like Tempest is a comedy. Merchant of Venice is categorized as a comedy. Al Pacino, you were talking about Scarface. Boy, he's on tape doing what is it? Skylar?
Oh no!
Yeah,
yeah.
Merchant of Venice.
Shylock.
Shylock, yeah. And then I saw him do Richard III too, Al Pacino.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Aaron was mentioning like it's a bit of snobbery about Shakespeare that someone who was not part of the elite and educated could actually produce something really good.
Yeah, that's true too.
And that would fit in the idea of that Shakespeare thought himself not as a writer, but as an owner of a theater.
And as an actor as well.
Probably, I think he did some. Yeah.
Well, he played the ghost of Hamlet's father. According to Joyce and Ulysses, or according to Stephen Dedalus, he did.
We don't know at this point. Yeah, Shan, remember that movie Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio, and the whole movie was Shakespeare? You know, I missed that one.
It's very romantic.
It wasn't that bad though. I mean, I was quite young.
Yeah, he was a kid too. Leo. I call him Leo, Mark, but yeah, Leo was a kid back then.
Kids back then. Yeah. Well, you know, it was a popular entertainment of the day.
Yeah, but it'd be interesting to know if that is it, if it really was considered by some as the general hospital of its day, and what things that were so amazing that we never got, or things that they thought were amazing that we would look at as being absolute rubbish, so.
Well, that is like, we talk about authors. One of the videos about authors' legacy changes over time. They're really popular at one time and now have just like no one bothers anymore. James Fenimore Cooper.
Yeah.
He was a
what about it?
Author in his day, and people were eagerly awaiting his next book. Now, how many people have read James Fenimore Cooper? I've read one book by him.
I've read two, I think. I can't remember. Now, it's something dear.
You probably read
saw a movie.
I read Last of the Mohicans. I read some.
I saw the movie.
Excerpts for a university class. We had a class on early American literature, and they had some parts that quoted say like they wanted everyone to know about this really popular author back then, but they didn't want you to have to read a whole book by him because no one cared anymore.
But there's loads of them. I mean, and it's actually surprising. I think I made a video recently on like so-called one-hit wonders.
You did.
A lot of them were not really one-hit wonders, right? That's their legacy today. They're remembered for one book or possibly two books, but they were so prolific. I mean,
Mom.
Sorry?
W. Somerset Maugham.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'd be a one-hit wonder, but his popularity. I mean, he wrote a couple of books that I really liked.
I read The Magician. I read The Bondage. What's that?
Of Human Bondage.
Yeah, I read that. That's a great old movie with Bette Davis too.
But I mean, one I like is not super popular these days. Is Henry Rider Haggard. He wrote over 80 books, and yet people know King Solomon's Mines. Others might know She, and that's it. But something that's a really good. It's like even Arthur Conan Doyle to some degree. I mean, everybody knows, of course, Sherlock Holmes, but
he wrote a ton of books. And actually, Sherlock Holmes was not his favorite book. He liked the White something, the White Guard, or
White Arrow. No. Yeah, I know the one you mean.
It was historical.
In the 100 Years' War. Can't remember for the life of me.
And that was his favorite book, and he thought that was going to be his masterpiece. And maybe Michael K. Vaughan has read that book.
Oh, I read it. I just can't remember the name of it.
Okay.
Because I did it. I think, did I do it? It's one of those Penguin classics they should have had on it, or maybe Michael did it. Yeah, I did one. I did Cleopatra by Haggard. That's one of The White Company. That's it, Aaron. Thank you.
That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, Elizabeth, Anatole France got the national funeral in France. Like Victor Hugo, he is almost not read anymore. He wrote Penguin Island. I think that's his most popular book in English translation.
I've got one. He won the.
He won the. Did he win the? Did he win
the Nobel
Prize?
And it's like it has different names. It's one of these books that gets differently translated. But the one I've got is Thirst of the Gods or something like that, or The God's Thirst. It's all about the French Revolution. I haven't read it yet. It's on my list. So I have to say I do really enjoy this. I've been enjoying this kind of trip into French authors. It's been something really new to me. So
yeah,
and Victor Hugo, fascinating man. You know, his life story as well. Just great.
Yeah, well, I've read the Hunchback of Notre Dame, or it really should be just translated Notre Dame, as I understand it.
I think they call it completely forgotten.
Because
right, it's something Notre Dame, but it's
something. The Hunchback is not in the title.
Notre Dame de Paris.
No, Notre Dame de Paris. Yes. Mm-hmm. And for whatever
I'm looking
reason,
for a new drawing project. So I think I'm going to attempt to draw the cathedral, Notre Dame.
Oh, hello, Elvis. Hello, Elvis.
Oh, Elvis, hey.
What are you doing?
Yeah, I love animals. I had a miniature schnauzer that lived 18 years.
Oh, wow, that's pretty good for a pedigree.
Yeah, he was a blue AKC, American Kennel Club, blue bred schnauzer, really smart. We still talk about him today. That here's what he looked like. That's a drawing of.
Actually, I think Shannon's brought up I get there. What's that?
Yeah, you know, there's one down below. It's like interesting that they changed the name to include Hunchback. As I remember, Quasimodo is important to the book, but it's not all. It's not just him in the book. There's a whole lot else going on.
Just like Les Mis, really. But it's interesting that Shannon says that because the Penguin Classics version is called Notre Dame de Paris.
Yes.
The one I've got here, though, which is Canterbury's Classics, is The Hunchback.
Well, that's I think it's because they made an early movie with Lon Chaney with that title. It's how it's recognized in the English world. Now, a lot of time, also like when you do titles that don't translate well into other languages.
Well, you heard the furor over the Christine Donaher translation of Les Miserables, did you?
She tried to rename it The Wretched.
Well, it fit. It does fit. I mean, she didn't do anything particularly wrong in terms of her translation because I think it's apt. But of course, it's just completely unrecognizable name. Everybody knows Les Miserables. So
yeah, and they went back to Les Miserables in her translation.
Yeah, but of course now the hardback copies that were sold saying The Wretched, of course, are valuable. So
of course. Yeah. But that just goes to the difficulty of translation, and it's an art.
Yeah, for sure. It is. It really is. And sometimes I think rather an underappreciated one.
It is. I have one book. Hold on. Let's see if I have it right here. Yeah, here we go. This is a very interesting translation. Elizabeth's going to know this. Is George Perec, A Void. This novel is a lipogram. Do you know what a lipogram is?
I know what a lithogram is.
A lipogram. It's where the author deliberately does not use a letter or certain letters in the alphabet, writing it down.
Okay.
What does he use?
He does not use the letter E.
No.
In French, as an E, the most common vowel in the language.
Can I buy an A? Can I buy an A, please?
So
buy an E.
it's utterly fascinating.
And does he actually avoid using it, or does he just not put it in?
Not use words. So I'm going to read like the first sentence or two out of this in
So
English.
hang on. You said it was French, so this has actually been translated.
Yes, without using the letter E.
God.
So this is more of an adaptation than a translation. But here's how it goes. Today, by radio, and also on giant hoardings, a rabbi, an admiral, notorious for his links to masonry, a trio of cardinals, a trio, too, of insignificant politicians, bought and paid for by a rich and corrupt Anglo-Canadian banking corporation, inform us all of how our country now risks dying of starvation.
Well, Stephen King did something like that with his book.
Misery, no, but that's totally different. That's where his typewriter did not use the letter E, and they left it blank, and then they scribbled in the letter E at top. This is
different.
This is just trying to create a sentence that is understandable without using the letter E in any of the words, and trying as closely as possible to the English grammar to make that a correct sentence.
No, with AI, I can write that novel this afternoon with AI.
Probably.
I can put my name on it. I can do that.
Oh, here's Shannon's like, what's the point of not using a letter? Playfulness. That's all you're doing is playing a game with writing.
Or showing off.
Now, if you ever seen Mark Nash's channel, he vilifies.
Don't get me started.
He vilifies it because he says that's not writing, that's just a game. You're not trying to do a real novel. You're just playing around. But I think it is a real novel, even if you are playing around, because you're playing around with language and having fun with it. Now,
did that say the same about like James Joyce? You know, he's playing around with things all the time, and yet he's revered. And yeah, I think there's no harm with that at all. Why not?
It's fun. And then there's one paragraph.
E. Cummings
drops the letter A.
E. Cummings.
One paragraph drops the letter A.
Also drops the letter A while not using the letter E. Now the thing
when
is,
was this book, Greg? When was it written?
In French, I think the 60s or the 70s.
What year? Copyright.
69 in French.
Okay, 69
in French, and this translation is 1994. Now, the translator had to take a whole lot of liberties with this translation. Yeah, and getting to the point is it a translation or is it an adaptation? Because he's really just looking at a text and saying, you cannot go with the regular rules of translate. You gotta be open, gotta play.
Who is the translator?
Gilbert Adair. I've not heard of him since.
No, it probably drove him mad.
He could have been mad, but I love this book. It's on Miss Reads a Lot's list of 1001 books to read. So I'm going to buddy read with her. I think it's May or April or somewhere around there. I hope she knows what she's in for. But I loved it. I find that kind of playfulness really kind of interesting.
Yeah. Actually, it's not to the same degree, but one of the things I learned from reading that novel of the century book about Les Mis is Hugo's all about that. You know, he sticks in so many. What's the term they use? Is it Easter eggs?
Easter eggs.
So many little things, like, you know, like the colors that the characters are wearing have really big significance in French society at the time. Or, for example, the Jean Valjean's prison number does have a meaning. You wouldn't know it, of course, and that the scholars have found all this out, of course, subsequently, like looking at his notes or learning about him. It's honestly a fascinating book. I can't praise it enough. I can't stop talking about it. Sorry.
Maybe
No,
I'll
it's
do,
okay.
maybe I'll do Les Miserables next March.
Yeah, for sure.
I
Oh,
I
wouldn't
mean,
say
you know
no,
what?
probably.
I have a confession to make. I have a confession to make right here, right now. I've
Mhm.
never even seen the movie with like
Liam
Liam.
Neeson.
Yeah, I've never seen the movie.
Neither have I.
I should be shot, huh?
I've never seen the musical either.
To be honest, that's what put me off reading the book. I had no, I just thought, it doesn't sound like my cup of tea at all. How wrong I was. So,
Here's a list.
Wow. High praise indeed.
A void in French is la disparition, which would be in English the disappearance.
which has an E in it.
But is a void? I don't know. I mean, because he's avoiding the letter E, and this one the letter has disappeared.
Avoid. Yeah, that's interesting. Avoid. I just got that. Avoid and avoid. He's avoiding it, and it's an empty space. Huh.
It is.
Sorry, I'm probably the last person to get that, but I'm like, hey, that's really good.
But they said if you like playfulness, you'll enjoy it. And then Perec wrote a story where the only vowel he used was the letter E. Yeah, Perec was a lexicographer. He wrote dictionaries for a living, so he had a lot of vocabulary. Writing an entire book without an E was a personal challenge. I think he did, at least the translator did an admirable job. I presume that the original French.
I mean, I'd probably try it with maybe an X or something, but
That's not a challenge.
sorry.
Greg,
What?
do you have a copy of Finnegan's Wake?
I do.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Can you get it out, please?
Sure.
Do you want to go there?
You don't get it.
I'm not going to get mine out. I'm just going to ask you to turn to page 193.
Well, my edition may not be your edition.
Oh, well, they should sync up. All should be the same. 193.
193. All right. Mine starts with the word making, then end parentheses. You squandered among the underlings, the overload.
Yeah, I gave you the wrong page number. I gave you the wrong page number. Hang on. Go to 308.
308.
Yeah. And I think I'm at 293.
This is my I get a weird, hold on, like
And
that.
I'm at 293, yeah. But
293.
yeah, that's you see the first end note, footnote. Kish is for Antichrist, and the free of my hand to him. You see that, Kish?
I don't think our texts are missing.
You should have that. You don't have that?
I had that on 308.
Oh, okay. So what do you think about that in a novel?
Hold on. The print's so small, I don't wear my reading glasses. Kish is for anti-church. No, it's like misspelled antichrist or whatever. Anti-cherished. And the free of my hand to him.
Well, what he's doing is saying "fuck you" in Italian.
Oh, okay.
Right, Mark? Isn't that like a "fuck you" in Italian? So that's Joyce being playful, Very playful. I think you would really enjoy Finnegan's Wake. I mean, it's a the same book on every page, you could say.
Well, I do want to reread Ulysses. I don't know if that's going to happen this year. Or not. So then,
I'm trying to get Jason Harrigan in on a Finnegan's Wake next year. You know how some Irish people, especially from the West, where he is in Shannon, you know, in a minute can mean like a month. I'll be there in a minute. You know?
Yeah.
Well, you know.
Go ahead.
Dexy is trying to find the barking dog.
That's Elvis. One of his enemies has probably just walked past on the street, so I muted it.
Oh, does Elvis have dogs he doesn't like in the neighborhood?
Oh, yeah. He has one. Well, I don't know why I'm pointing. He has one over there and he has one over there. But one of the ones he really hates is actually the butcher's dog, because I live on like the main, if you like, Main Street, I suppose, in the town. So like there's a great butcher up there and he has his dog, this big fluffy thing. And for some reason, Elvis hates him. So every time.
Does he like other dogs?
Sorry?
Does he have other dog friends?
No, he doesn't.
Mark, do you get like bottles of milk and deliveries from the butcher? Do you get deliveries?
No.
No, it's not that village.
No.
Go ahead.
He has Elvis, stop it. He has girlfriends. He likes older women dogs. He doesn't like dogs that are bigger than him.
Okay.
So I think it's a fear thing for him, maybe. And he has quite a good memory in that I think it's no accident that many of the dogs he dislikes are the ones that growled at him when he was a puppy.
Oh.
And he's remembered that, I'm sure. Yeah. Because if he meets the dog for the first time, he can be a bit wary or whatever, but he remembers dogs that he likes from whenever, but these ones that were a little bit, and they're male dogs, growled at him as a puppy, he barks at them now, like anything.
Well, you know what Shakespeare said?
No.
If you seek revenge, dig 2 graves.
No. Have you ever tried to give some to like a doggy daycare socialization?
Yeah, you know.
We have one down the street here in my neighborhood.
The thing is, with a lot of these things, it's not the same in all over the world, right? Especially in like small town Czech Republic. You know, there probably are some things. I know I wanted to get him to do lessons, but apparently the teacher was a bit kind of old school and maybe a bit harsh. He sometimes meets like, as I said, he has one particular girlfriend that he likes to see, but he hasn't been able to see her for a while because the person who usually walks that dog's undergoing a hip replacement, so that's not going to happen. But
we have several dogs in my building and some on my floor. I like them. You know,
I love them. But I get annoyed with him because sometimes I'm just like worried that he's being a bully. But generally, I don't think he is. I think
I was going to say that, but I didn't want to offend you.
No. I think more often than not, he's reacting. Like in this situation, I think it's also partly the fact that he views the street outside his window as his. So it's like they're intruding, you know, like in the same way as like it's his front garden, probably, you know. So, but I am going to go see. I'm going to see what it is. Well, because it might not be a dog. He doesn't like people. Okay. He doesn't like people loitering on the street. So I'm quite curious as to what it is.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, we'll cover for you. Yeah, there's a lot of things in Finnegan's Wake like that, and they call them the siglas. There's other like HCE and ALP, and you know, I sent you that one book, the thin book. I knew that guy, but we'll have to get around to Finnegan's Wake and get Jason Harrigan involved in it, and Adam Savage too.
I'm up for it someday.
Yeah, I'd like to get involved in that, like Ulysses Finnegan's Wake. They used to do it at a bar here called Timothy O'Leary's, but the couple who ran it, they moved to Dublin, so I don't think they do it anymore. But maybe I could start one up myself. But that like a Ulysses Club, or I used to put my phone number in Ulysses at different libraries. Like if you want to read Ulysses, give me a call or text me.
Yeah, the thing is, I also want to visit Ireland someday. You know, my wife will be retired in a year and a half, and then we can travel more. And the thing is, if I want to visit Ireland, I would love to be in Dublin on June 18th.
June when?
June 18th. June 18th? Isn't that
16th?
16th.
What's June?
June 16th. Yeah.
June 16th.
Okay. Bloomsday.
Bloomsday. It's the day that Ulysses takes place, because apparently people just gather in Dublin and read Ulysses all day long.
Yeah, I was there in the 90s. I was there for St. Pat's Day, all that. I was there for Bloomsday, 1996. Yeah, the mayor gets involved. Yeah, I wanted to go back to Ireland. I mean, I want to see Florence, Italy, kind of first again. But yeah, I want to immigrate to Ireland. That's no secret.
I haven't been to Ireland for a long time. It was back in '89 or something, maybe I was there. And it's funny because, of course, it's not that far away from where I was living. So,
yeah, I mean, when I was there, they still had the armed border at Ulster, Northern Ireland. So I've never been north, and I've never been west. I've been as far as County Roscommon, where the Famine Museum is, but like where Jason lives in County Clare, Shannon. I've never been west, or where W.B. Yeats is from, County Sligo. I've never been west there.
I mean, it was quite a different country when I was there, though. I mean, from what I hear, I mean,
really small country, though.
Well, I mean, I was a kid, and I was very upset because there was quite a lot of begging and homelessness and all this kind of stuff. And I think it was probably sometime in the mid 90s they had the so-called Celtic Tiger, and their economy, really took off, and they started doing really well. And I think throughout a lot of like the early part, from their independence through to the 1970s, it was a tough place. It was a tough country to live in. It didn't do, and I think maybe they're strict. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously you had that, but also, the Republic was always much more understanding. Actually, there's a nice literary link to. I can't remember if he was the fourth president of Ireland or the third president of Ireland. Do you know the book Riddle of the Sands by Erskine Childers?
No.
It's a fantastic, again, this is definitely a one-hit wonder. It's a fantastic spy story set before the First World War. And Erskine Childers himself was an Anglo-Irishman, and he was a Protestant, but he got involved with like the likes of, Sir Roger Casemate and stuff, and helping out the IRA and dealing with, fighting for home rule and stuff like this. And he got involved with the, I can't remember if it was the pro-Collins faction or the anti-Collins faction during the Irish Civil War. And he found himself arrested, tried, and he was executed by a firing squad, which is very sad. Yet he was able to say goodbye to his son. Whatever. Anyway, his son went on to become president of Ireland. So, and what was interesting about that was it was like, I think, the third or fourth president of Ireland, or maybe second, I don't remember, but he was a Protestant, not a Catholic. So,
very interesting.
Republic was always has always been much more, what's the word? tolerant, I suppose, than the North.
So we've been on this for 2 hours. So
No. Yeah.
about time to probably start wrapping it up.
Yeah. Right. Time for bed.
Yes, Shannon's books and musings and music. I have never made it to Ireland, only England and Scotland, but I was named after the River Shannon.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. Yeah, so okay. Yeah, we're down to like 5 people watching, so
It's a big ask, isn't it? 2 hours.
it
People
is.
have to do, especially over there.
It is, but you get getting talking on these things, and it's like you're sitting in a pub and you're just talking, and you lose all sense of time. And
definitely.
Okay, I want to close with this. Look at all these. Look at this, Greg. We can talk about Sean a bit since he's not here anymore. I'm already. See, where are you at on this book, Greg? I can't put it down. I can't put it down, man.
I'm in the middle of chapter 3. I am reading it on my Kindle as I'm listening to the audiobook.
Me too.
I've got so I've got 3 copies of this book. So
do you speed it up because obviously you read faster than you can listen to it?
I do. I read it 140. I read it like 140.
I'm doing
it's not really fast.
1 point somewhere. It really depends on the narrator of the book. Some narrators you can speed up higher. Some it depends on how naturally fast they are reading.
That's why I like it. It helps me read faster. You know, I speed mine up. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Shannon.
Yes,
appreciate you stopping by.
We do, and as I said, it's about time to call it quits. So, any
thanks,
last?
Mark.
Yeah, Mark. Thanks for coming up. It's
every show we do gets better and better, Greg.
Yeah.
I think it's due to our guests.
Yeah, I think that's true, Aaron. Definitely to a point, but yeah. Well, thank you very much for having me, guys. It's been great. It's been really nice.
It has been nice. Next week is
Brandy.
Yes.
Brandy with a Y.
Eclectic, and then Bad is Red. And then is Una afterwards? Has that been?
No, I think Una's on the 20th of March.
20th of March.
Yeah, so he's going to be from the road.
We're back to the middle of the night then.
Yeah.
We have to find someone for the end of March.
Sean,
okay.
You're reading the book with him, so
maybe so.
There you go.
All right. Well, good night, everyone. I hope you have a good remainder.
My pleasure.
Or your evening, wherever you happen to be. Bye.
Bye-bye.